Hello, kia ora, Kirsty here. Jumping on with what I would probably say is quite an impromptu little episode here. Today I was about to send out my email newsletter. If you're not on the list, you want to get hold of an email update from me each week, jump down the subscribe links just below there, and you can jump on and hear from me outside of the podcast via your email inbox. Anyway, I was about to send out my email newsletter, and the content that I had for that was one that I did probably about 6 or 8 months ago. And it was, what am I reading? What am I listening to? And what am I watching? And I have to say, I was really blown away by how many people opened this email, how many people wanted to know what I was up to outside of the podcast, what I was reading for my own enjoyment. And yeah, I was really surprised. So I'd sat down this morning and I thought, right, I'm going to send out that email again. Obviously, it's going to be updated because some time has passed. I'm now reading different things. I'm a slow reader, but not that slow. I'm watching new things. There's always different content coming out. And then I thought, why not make it a little mini episode? So that's what I'm going to be sharing with you in this episode, what I'm putting my time and energy into. And I'll start with, what am I watching? Because I love to watch things. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are like, oh no, watching's not good. You should really cut down on how much time you spend in front of a screen or how much attention you're giving to stuff. I grew up with a lot of screen time. Obviously not devices. They weren't invented yet. Gosh, that makes me sound a bit old, doesn't it? But TV time, really enjoyed my TV time. It was a nice way to relax. Now that we have the choice of what it is that we put our focus on or what we give to our attention, I'm okay with watching a lot of things. I actually really enjoy it personally. And so I find watching things very, very relaxing. I often have things going on in the background while I'm doing things, or just to have it going. I quite enjoy it. And again, I know that that can be distraction. We've got to have times in our life where we focus on one thing. We don't have distractions and multiple things going on at once. But I have my time where I do my breathing, my meditation. I have my watching time, and then I have my time where I've got a few things on the boil all at the same time. And for me, I feel like that's okay. Everybody's individual. I know that we definitely have to be aware, consciously aware of what we're feeding ourselves, what we're feeding our focus, our entertainment, our attention, how we're spending our time and what we're giving to ourselves, because I think that's really important. And actually, I received a really beautiful email from a listener recently, and they said that they're listening to particular things and they noticed over time they're starting to feel quite heavy and a little bit depressed. And then they switched and they started researching all of these topics around end of life and near-death experiences and all of these good things. And they felt like things changed and they felt a lot more uplifted. And they wrote to me just sharing their experience of how the content and the things that we listen to can actually change our whole, call it environment, call it vibe, call it vibration. Yeah, it can change things. Anyway, I'm totally off topic. I guess my point there was I actually quite like to watch things. I love to sit down and just watch something. So what am I watching at the moment? I'm always watching lots of things. I get sent a lot of links. I'm currently watching a documentary that somebody sent me yesterday. They may come on the show at some point. I'm watching links of things that people send me. So it's obviously around the topic. I watch near-death experience videos. I listen to things. I'm watching a lot of the content that's out there around the questions that I have about life and what is this all about. And even though I'm an experiencer, even though I've been doing this podcast for quite some time, the questions never stop because I'm very curious, and I find that the topic gets bigger and bigger, and I'll go down one avenue and then it's like, oh, but what's over here? Let's go have a look here. And then it takes me off somewhere else, having a look there. So at the moment, I've gone down this rabbit hole of looking at glitches in the matrix, time, missing time, things where things just don't quite add up, where people have experiences. There was one that I was listening to recently, and they're driving on the motorway and suddenly there was all these older cars around them and the off-ramp was different. There was another one that ended up going through this town and it had an olden days like restaurant in it, and they went in, and where things are just not matching up. And I find these stories so interesting. There are so many of them out there. Sure, we've got to just sort of keep a sense about us and go, well, how much of these, how credible are these? How much can we trust these stories? Because I always talk about being a skeptic, about questioning everything. But these stories I find truly fascinating. They're so interesting. And I love to hear about these experiences people have where it gets my mind thinking about parallel universe, about time and what is time anyway. So it all links into the bigger conversation of life and death and experiences in between, which is the basis of this podcast show. So I'm watching lots of documentaries. I'm watching little videos about glitches in the matrix, missing time, where things just don't add up. And I often listen to them as I'm going to sleep, which is just what I do. I often ask, can I have dreams, or can I have something while I'm asleep? Can I have some kind of experience? And that doesn't happen for me so much. I'm not quite sure why, but I do listen to these things and they help me to go to sleep. I go to sleep feeling quite at peace when I'm listening to them. So that's just me. I've also been watching this TV show. It's a New Zealand-based TV show, and apologies if you can't get it if you're overseas. I actually don't know if it's available outside of New Zealand, but for the Kiwi listeners, it's Good Grief, and it's on TVNZ. I think they're about 20-minute episodes, and it's about these two sisters that inherit a funeral parlor. And it's the journey of, how do you inherit a funeral parlor? What does that mean? Do you want to keep it? Do you want to sell it? How do you deal with death when that wasn't like your chosen profession or not something that you particularly went after? And because these two sisters, they've got their lives, they're doing their other things as well. And so it's just funny. It's really interesting. It's about their staff that they have, because they instantly inherit the team of people that work at the funeral parlor, the funeral home. And it's all of the interactions. It's the way that outsiders suddenly in the face of death are dealing with that. And so it's quite a positive spin on grief. It's quirky. I'll give you that. It's quirky. Yeah. So I've been watching that. So really fun. So that is what I have been watching. Now, before I move on to what I've been reading, which is a really exciting one for me because I love books, there is an upcoming documentary, if we're talking about watching things. It's with Johanna Lunn. She is the director of In the Realm of Death and Dreaming. And it's amazing. She is offering us the chance to see her film, her documentary, In the Realm of Death and Dreaming. And this is going to be a private event. So you do need to register for this. It will be held through Zoom. You need to register to get the invite and the link to be able to come along to this event. I will put the event details there. They should be up on the screen right now. They're also down below, and that link to register is in the show notes. So it's on, if you are in the US, it's on September the 17th at 6 p.m. That's Eastern time. If you are in New Zealand, in Auckland, here with me, it's going to be on September the 18th at 10 a.m. Auckland time. So that's 8 a.m. Sydney. You can do, based on your time zone, the maths of when that will be shown for you. So there won't be a replay. This won't be released as a proper episode. This is a private event. It's an open event, so you're all very welcome to come along. And we're going to be watching In the Realm of Death and Dreaming. So we're talking about what happens with consciousness after we die? Is it lights out, or does something else happen? And Johanna's done an amazing job of interviewing all sorts of people and researchers and experiences, and looking into this question of what happens when we die. There's also going to be an episode with Johanna where you'll get information about that upcoming film preview. But mark your calendars. Register on the thing below to get the updates that are going to come out about that. You need to register to get to the link. And that's on September the 17th if you're in the US, September the 18th if you're in Auckland. All right, so on to what am I reading? So I love books. I am reading quite a few books all at the same time. Again, not something I recommend. It's a little bit different for me because I run a publishing company. So I'm reading books to proof them, to check them. I'm reading books because I'm working on them. I'm reading books because people send me their books. I was sent this one here by Stephen Chong. The Afterlife, A Journey To. It's hard to do it straight. If you're watching the video version, I do apologize. I'm waving it around. Now you know what will happen. So I just received this. I haven't read any of it. Stephen actually sent me the PDF copy quite a while ago, and I struggle with reading things on a screen. I'm okay to do emails and things like that, but when it becomes reading, my brain just doesn't love it. And I become very slow, very confused, and I can't really follow along with what it is that I'm reading. So he kindly sent me this beautiful paperback version. I just received this in the mail. Stephen, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate that. I can't wait to get into it and excited to be, that's in my upcoming reading list. In my current reading list, I'm reading this one. Okay, again, I can't get it straight while we've got the, it's back to front for me in the video. Okay, Messages, Signs, Visits, and Premonitions from Loved Ones Lost on 9/11. And this is by Bonnie McInerney, and I hope I've said your name right, Bonnie. Brilliant book. You can see my little bookmark there. Yes, it's a cat. I'm about 20 pages in, so I've only just started, but this book has been absolutely amazing. It's all about after-death communication, and it's connected to ones that were lost in 9/11. I'm going to read just a couple of sentences out of the introduction. Now, I'm paraphrasing some of this. I'm reading just a few pages because I want to give full credit to Bonnie. I don't want to steal her work in any way, but I'll just read a couple of little paragraphs here to give you a feel for what this book is about, because it's blowing my mind. So, in the summer of 2001, my husband was positive that his death was imminent, and he communicated a series of compelling premonitions, including a discussion on how to escape from the trade center in the event of an attack that he was sure was coming. She goes on to say, after my husband's death, I couldn't help but think about the various heartfelt statements and what his words meant. I was also starting to have an overwhelming awareness of his presence, along with the sense that he was somehow trying to communicate and send the messages that he was okay. I was having a difficult time understanding what was happening to me. Was this simply a manifestation of grief? I began to ask others who had lost loved ones on 9/11 if they too had encountered anything similar, and I was amazed at the responses. She goes on to say, an astonishing number told me that either they or their family members had seen their loved one's spirit. So she's talking all about loved ones coming to communicate after the 9/11 attack, and just, I'm only 20 pages in, but just how amazing that is. And interesting because she talks quite a bit about the premonitions, how they perceived that something was going to happen. So super interesting. I encourage you to get it. I'll come back and give you an update on this book, but this is what I'm reading at the moment. I'm also part of a book club. So we've got, this is a girls book club, which is part of my social thing that I'm in. And these girls are just amazing. They make life more fun. So I read books for work. I read books for book club. I read books because listeners send them to me or potential guests send them to me. And then I find things like this, which this just came across my path. And I thought, right, I've got to get that. Got to hear about these messages coming through. And when I feel that prompting, I'll just buy the books. And I have many, many, many books, probably too many. I don't know if there's such a thing. But again, like I say, I can't read so well on a screen. So I end up buying the actual book. So that is what I am reading. Okay, what am I watching? Before I go there, if you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe. It really helps me to get the views, to keep the channel going. It's not really a money-making thing. There is no money in this. It's just about keeping it going and enabling me to do what I need to do to keep that channel moving forward. So if you haven't subscribed, I would appreciate that. You may want to consider doing that. You may want to consider leaving a little comment. They are always nice. I try and reply to as many as possible. And it all just helps in the background with algorithms and different things going on, just to be able to keep the channel moving forward, which is really, really helpful. Okay, what am I listening to? I am listening, again, like what am I watching? I'm listening to quite a few things, because when I go for a walk, I'll listen to, actually quite often it's an audio book. I listen to Audible. But I do listen to documentaries. I'll put them on YouTube and I'll have them playing while I'm walking my dog or something like that. Or I'll have things while I'm doing the dishes or the housework or borrowing things like folding towels, things like that. I've quite often got my headphones in listening to things. And so that's quite helpful. So I'm listening to a bunch of things. I got a really, really cheap audiobook, which was an introduction into Buddhism. And I thought that was interesting. So I've been listening to that a little bit. I often listen to things right as I go to sleep. A lot of my listening is either music or it's not meditation. How would you describe it? It's like centering music, so calming music, to where I can just be in my space. I listen to a lot of that. I listen to sleep music as I go to sleep because I have quite some issues with sleep. It's not so straightforward. So I do often listen to sleep music. But yeah, I've just started this book, An Introduction into Buddhism. And like most of the things I'm talking about today, quite new into that. It's interesting to get a bit of background and to understand a little bit more. I'm someone who's always looking to understand more. And it doesn't mean that I need to go down one pathway. You know, I like to understand all the pathways. And if I can just dabble a little bit in all the pathways, then I'm okay with that, because I want to get a nice base knowledge. I want to understand different perspectives and where people are coming from. And so I love to learn things about people culturally. I love different belief systems. I love just to explore and see what information's out there. So I listen to a variety of things, and that's probably not very helpful. I think if I have done the email, which I may still do, it's a lot more clear cut to see what it is that, you know, I choose one thing and I focus on this. So I could say, I'm watching this one thing, I'm reading this one thing, and I'm listening to this one thing. But actually, I don't think I'm alone in listening to a few other things. And so I sound like I'm quite distracted. So I do just want to really re-emphasize that point of we need to take time in our life to focus and clear all the noise, live a bit mindfully, do some mindful meditation, do some breathing. I listen to quite a few meditations and I do box breathing, which I really like. I do different things. So yes, we can have lots of things going on, lots of pots on the boil all at the same time, but let's actually be aware of what it is that we're doing. Create spaces for particular conversations or particular times to do things. Create the conscious space of this is what I'm going to watch. TV can be quite depressing. TV can be quite hard. So I try and fill my viewing time with things that are going to uplift me or teach me something. I'd love to hear what you're reading, what you're listening to, and what you're watching. Pop it into the comments. That's really helpful. If you've got links, send them to me. I do watch them. It can take me a little while. The books can take me quite some time to get through, but do send it to me. I love all of this. And I hope that we can come together and share ideas, share your favorite books, your favorite films. I've got recommendations of films at the moment to go and watch. To watch something for 1.5 hours, 2 hours is a little bit harder. So the shorter ones are good. Maybe around that 30, 40 minute is good. I'd love to hear what you're reading. I will be back next week with our upcoming guest. And if you haven't checked out our previous episode where I'm chatting with Dr. Christopher Kerr, go and check that out, because that is fascinating. That is all about end-of-life experiences, what it's like to die. He's the CEO of the Buffalo Palliative Care Center and has done amazing research. He's got a TED Talk. He's got all sorts of other things that he's done. He's written this amazing book, and he's talking about deathbed phenomena. So go back, have a listen to that. This whole episode is this whole season is dedicated to end-of-life and deathbed experiences. I love to get your messages. I love to hear what you're up to. So feel free to leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you haven't signed up for the documentary coming up, the one that is called In the Realm of Death and Dreaming by Johanna Lunn, click on the subscribe link, which is down in the show notes. You'll get all the details there, and I will catch you soon.